and welcome to episode 104. Well, something a bit interesting today, I hope. I've been looking for quite a long time for a matching ribbon microphone to go with one that I've had for about 4 or 5 years now. And I've given up trying to find one because the people who made it have stopped making it, and that's the end of that. And I don't think there ever will be another one. So keeping an eye open for something that doesn't exist is becoming a bit pointless. But I've got a job coming up in the new year where I need a pair of ribbon mics. I mean, in all honesty, I don't need a pair of ribbon mics. I've got plenty of pairs of condensers and probably dynamics too, really. But I think it would be really nice because a pair of figure 8 microphones in this particular place that I'm going to do this recording would be quite nice. And I tried to find some. Now, realistically, a lot of the ones that are on sale fall into two camps. I either can't afford them because although I'd like a pair of STCs or Coles, the second-hand price of those is ridiculous and I can't really justify that sort of money. But what you can get are plenty of Chinese ones, and as people who've watched these videos for a while know, I'm quite a lover of Chinese mics. There are absolute terrible ones, of course, but equally there are some really impressive and modestly priced ones. So I started looking for ribbon mics. Now, there are a couple of choices when you buy from China. You can buy from AliExpress. You see all those amazing things on AliExpress and they all seem dirt cheap until you look a bit more carefully and discover that they either fall into the total rubbish category or the really nice category, but the really nice ones are just too expensive. AliExpress is not just the home for cheap stuff. It's the home for really quite overpriced stuff too, so you have to be a bit careful. One other option, of course, is to buy from China more direct. A lot of people do it through Alibaba, and Alibaba is more the sort of thing where you have to think a bit harder. With AliExpress, you can pay by credit card. You press a button, they work out what the shipping is going to be and they send it to you. Well, Alibaba are more interested in selling lots of an item rather than just a few, and they tend to work by freight shipping by sea, all of which can be a bit more complicated and very time consuming. But most of the people, if they've got them, they will, if you ask them, send them by UPS if they're quite small, or FedEx, those sort of carriers. Now, that's not what they normally do. They're not normally geared up for selling somebody like me just a couple of mics. Sometimes they'll insist on maybe 5, or there'll be a minimum order quantity that you've actually got to follow, or you just won't get them. It's not worth their bother to do them in any other way. The other thing that happens is that descriptions lose something in the translation. If you go onto either AliExpress or Alibaba and you type in ribbon microphone, you'll notice that virtually all the microphones that come up are not ribbons at all. Now, the problem is that ribbon, dynamic, condenser, capacitor, all of those descriptive terms, when you put them into their search box, they get mangled. And quite a lot of the firms actually show you a picture of a dynamic microphone. It's clearly a dynamic, and they describe it as a dynamic condenser. And if you search for ribbon, you'll find a lot of them are dynamics, a lot of them are condensers. It's a mess. So you have a bit of a fruitless sort of job on to try and find what you want. And on Alibaba, I actually found one of the companies who were advertising ribbon microphones, yet when I looked, they were actually dynamics. But one of the things that happens on Alibaba is that when you actually ask one supplier for a price or some details, they send that request to loads of other ones. And I got a response from a different company saying, did I want ribbon microphone? And so I replied and said, yes, I need to buy 2 ribbon microphones. That's all, I just need 2. So if you have such a thing, give me some details and a price. And they responded and said, well, we could make you ribbons. We used to make ribbon microphones, but they stopped because lots of people were buying them. There was a fair number of returns because they'd been blown into and broken by the customers. And they'd sort of stopped doing ribbons, although they still had all the tooling and the machinery to make them. So what I wanted were 2 microphones, pretty inexpensive but good quality. And they said, OK, we can make you a couple. So I thought, well, it's a nice offer. I mean, realistically, we were looking at probably getting on for $300, which included the shipping cost to me in the UK. And I saw some pictures and I thought, well, they look okay. They actually looked quite nice. So I said, OK, I'll do it. And all they wanted was half the money up front as an advance payment, and I could pay the remainder, not when they were delivered, but when they left China. That's the sort of way that quite a lot of the shipping systems work over there. Sort of, you know, your job is done when it leaves the airport or it leaves the docks. So I thought, yeah, OK, I'll give it a go. They'd sounded trustworthy in the correspondence. The emails were written clearly by someone who had a decent understanding of English, or at least access to, you know, Google Translate or whatever. But generally, the circumstances sounded okay, and I figured it was worth the risk. So $300, 2 microphones. They posted them to me last Monday. They sent me a photograph of exactly what was going to go in the box. I got the option of either having with mounts or no mounts. If I ordered them without the mic mounts, then they would have been a bit cheaper. But I figured that as they're sort of bigger than a sort of typical dynamic, but smaller than a typical large format condenser, having the right mounts would probably be worth it. So I said I'll have the mounts as well. And they've arrived. So I've got the box. Turned up this morning with FedEx. So I sort of pretty well know what's in here because I saw the pictures they took when they packed them. Lots of interlocking foam. I'm going to keep that because it might come in handy. So what we got? White box. I don't really like unboxing videos because, you know, it's a bit boring watching someone open up. But this is interesting because I generally don't really know what's in the box. I mean, they could have shown me a picture of them being packed and sent me a load of rubbish, couldn't they? So I'm hoping it's going to be okay. So what have we got? Bit of got the stand adapter. I've got some that look very similar to this, but in bigger size. So the hole in the middle is sort of finger size. So it's a nice little isolation mount. The usual thing. Squeeze those 2 tabs and it opens up. So that's looking pretty nice. And a little padded bag. It's actually quite nice. And inside the bag, it's okay. If I hold it up to the light, it looks like a typical U-shaped magnet, and I can just about see in the gap a ribbon. Difficult to guess the size, but I reckon probably 4mm, 5mm, something in that region. It's put together reasonably well. It seems quite sturdy. So this is what I've got. It's quite a nice design, that, isn't it? That's not a bad design. Completely unmarked. There's no brand names on it. If I ordered about 40 upwards, I could have whatever brand I liked around that. But I've got no intention to doing that. I've just got a couple of mics, identical, XLR on the end. Quite hefty, pretty solid. So the next thing, what do they sound like? You're listening to me now on the SM7B, our comparison mic. So let's switch across to the Ribbon. So now we're on the Ribbon and on the same distance away as the SM7B, which is around about 35 centimetres, just over a foot really, my preferred distance. And oddly, I've not had to adjust the input gain. The gain is sufficient that, I'd got a preamp out to use just in case I needed to, thinking that the output level will be quite low, and it's not. So that's not needed, so I can put that away. And all in all, I'm quite surprised. I rather like this. Now I've got two of these, so of course I can do Blumlein stereo, which is what I intend to do. Two microphones, 90 degrees to each other. I'll put one over the top of the other, and away I go. That's my cunning plan for recording the project in the new year. So it's quite a positive experience really. Looking at this microphone, it looks good. It certainly seems to sound okay. What I will do, just to let you sort of see how it goes, so this is the microphone handheld. If I rotate it by 90 degrees, that's me off the side. Turn it a little bit further and go around from the side to the back. So the figure of 8 pattern means that I've got no difference between front and back. So that's me at the back, that's me at the side, and that is me at the front. So all in all, I'm rather pleased with it. Now, that I'm not going to pull it apart, but I don't think there's much in the way of wind protection because I can see the monitor through the grill. I've got a video monitor down here, and just I can actually see me through the mic, so I don't think there is anything inside there at all apart from some mesh. And then there might be something over the top of the Ribbon, but I don't think so. I think it's pretty transparent, which for what I use it for, you know, classical, choral, that sort of stuff, is probably going to be just what I want. So I should get the benefit of maximum HF without it being shoved full of foam and stuff like that. So all in all, not bad. So anyway, look after yourselves, take care, and I shall see you in the new year.